I'm Emily Chang. This is Bloomberg Technology. Coming up, Trump Jr.'s show and tell. The president's eldest son takes to Twitter to mount a defense on the latest email scandal to hit Washington. We'll get the latest from the Hill. Plus, Costolo's come back. The former Twitter CEO returns to the startup scene with a new focus on fitness. He joins us for a wide-ranging interview on everything from Twitter's newly hired CFO to Baroque culture in Silicon Valley. And Amazon's Echo hits all the right notes on its way to the top of Prime Day's bestseller list. How the tech giant doubled down on the discount bonanza to push the digital assistant into more homes. First to our lead, and that is the email bombshell coming out of Washington involving President Trump's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr. Trump Jr. used his Twitter account to reveal a series of email exchanges with a British publicist, showing he was promised damaging information about Hillary Clinton at a meeting with a Russian lawyer during the presidential campaign. Donald Trump Jr. said in a statement that he had released the emails, quote, in order to be totally transparent. President Trump has also come out with a response saying through a spokeswoman, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, that Trump Jr. is, quote, a high-quality person, and he applauds his transparency. Joining us now with the latest from Capitol Hill, our White House correspondent, Kevin Cirilli. Kevin, give us the very latest so far.
Well, the White House is defending Donald Trump Jr. today, including the president himself through his deputy communications spokesperson, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, saying that Donald Trump Jr. is a quote-unquote high-quality person. But I will tell you, I've spoken with several lawmakers here on Capitol Hill all throughout the day who are pressing for more answers, particularly on the eve of Christopher Wray's testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee tomorrow. Of course, that's President Trump's nominee to be the FBI director. Nancy Pelosi called this quote-unquote incendiary, but Senator John Cornyn, a Republican from Texas, a member of the Intelligence Committee, said that Donald Trump Jr. should in fact testify before that committee. I also just interviewed House Freedom Caucus Chairman Mark Meadows, a Republican, who says that he hopes the special prosecutor Robert Mueller will be able to get to the bottom of this. I apologize. Special counsel Robert Mueller will be able to get to the bottom of this. He was echoed, of course, by Senator Marco Rubio, saying that the investigators do need to look into these new emails.
So what are next steps here, and how does this affect that special investigation?
Well, I can tell you, Emily, that there will be at the hearing tomorrow poignant questions on this to Christopher Wray, particularly how he plans to pick up the investigation, the ongoing investigations into whether or not there was any type of relationship with the Russians and the Trump campaign. We should note that it wasn't just Donald Trump Jr. who was at this meeting. It was also Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law and now senior advisor, as well as Paul Manafort, who has been at the center of this probe for quite some months. Of course, that was the president's then campaign manager. So expect questions tomorrow before the Senate Judiciary Committee, not just from Democrats, but also from Republicans.
All right, our Bloomberg White House correspondent, Kevin Cirilli, I know you will keep us updated throughout the day as that unfolds tomorrow. Thanks so much. A new hire now at Twitter. Former Intuit head of finance Ned Siegel will become chief financial officer effective in late August. He will report directly to CEO Jack Dorsey. Siegel will assume the role of CFO from Anthony Noto, who's been holding down two jobs as both COO and CFO since Adam Bain left the company. Noto will continue to serve as Twitter's COO, a position he assumed back in November 2016 when Bain left. For more reaction to this story, we're joined now by Dick Costolo, former CEO of Twitter. He's recently returned to the startup world and is currently the CEO and co-founder of Chorus, a new company aiming to disrupt personal fitness. What timing, Dick, to have you back on today?
I mean, literally 5 minutes before I got out of the cab in front of the...
Totally unplanned, right?
Totally unplanned.
So, Ned Siegel, is he a good choice?
I'm sure he's a high-quality person in the parlance of the day. I don't know Ned. Sorry, I was just riffing on the news story. It was funny to me when I thought of it. I don't know him. You know, as you know, and as I've said many times, I have a lot of confidence in the team over there. Anthony and Jack and Vidya and Leslie Berlin, the CMO. So I'm sure he's a great addition to the team.
We know Twitter had a strong quarter when it came to user growth, but they reported their first quarterly loss. We've seen this new strategy unfolding when it comes to live video partnerships. Do you expect any change in strategy with a new CFO?
I mean, I couldn't say. I'm not being inside the company at this point, but those guys are pretty focused, and they've been pretty clear about what they're working on vis-a-vis live, and I would expect that to continue as long as they're promoting it the way they've been.
So what would you think a mandate of a new COO would be?
CFO. I think it's probably Anthony, taking on more of a day-to-day operating role and really moving fully into the COO role, and obviously then need someone to backfill into the CFO role.
Let's talk about the Trump administration. Obviously, there's been a lot of noise, as we were just reporting. I'm curious, as somebody who started many, many companies over a decade and a half.
Many companies.
2 decades,
but let's just go with many.
What is it like starting a company under the Trump administration? Is it any different?
This feels like one of those questions we should have when we're walking along the pier. Tell us what it's like now for you. To be perfectly honest, it's not that different when you're in the day-to-day trenches of running a startup. You're focused on the hiring pipeline and trying to find the right people on the team, trying to get your bugs out of the beta and the performance of the beta better, and trying to understand the user dynamics of the beta for the kind of consumer stuff we're building. So I would say that, to be perfectly frank, on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't really affect the way we think about what we're doing.
Tech leaders largely came out vocally against Trump, though we haven't yet seen, some of the results of the policies he has promised. We do know that it appears he plans to block these so-called startup visas, which are given to entrepreneurs who come in from foreign countries. How big a deal is this?
I think that's really unfortunate, and I think, to be, again, just sort of blunt about it, I think it's a sign that he's not really paying much of any attention to what the tech leaders are talking to him about, because I can assure you that they would be promoting that idea. It promotes job creation in the U.S. You want the best entrepreneurs in the world starting their companies and building these future big businesses here, and hiring people here, and not doing it elsewhere. And to the extent you can attract them here and enable them to build those companies here and thrive here with the great sort of access to capital and nourishing of entrepreneurship that we have here, the more of that, the better. So I think it's unfortunate, and probably a sign that not having been in any of those discussions, that it's a little bit paying lip service to listening to tech leaders and not really doing it.
We've seen tech stocks take a bit of a hit the last couple weeks. They also took a hit today in the wake of another presidential email scandal. Putting on your former public company CEO hat, what would you be bracing for in the public markets?
Well, I have thought for a while that the markets have been underpricing risk with everything going on in the world, not just this, but things going on in Europe and elsewhere in the Middle East. And so I guess I would continue to be bracing for what I would have expected by now to be a lot more volatility. I mean, volatility is almost at it has been at record lows recently, and I just just sort of looking at what's going on. Would be surprised if that continues to be the case for an extended period of time.
How about in the private markets? What do you see happening?
Well, it's certainly been the case recently that these very, very late stage private market valuations of companies that are staying private for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years now end up being much higher than, or significantly higher than when those companies debut in the public markets. That's probably going to continue to be the case in the near term, meaning that you'll see companies go public in 18 and maybe early 19 whose late round private valuations were much, much higher than their initial public valuations. I don't see that changing anytime soon. So I see continued lots of money in the private markets chasing few deals, which drives up the prices. And when these things finally see the light of day in the retail markets, they, it sort of probably rightly turns out to be the case that they're not worth as much as their last private rounds were.
All right. former Twitter CEO Dick Costolo. We're going to continue this conversation after the break. We're going to talk a little bit more about Chorus, what you're working on now. Lots more coming up. And a quick reminder that Bloomberg Technology is live streaming on Twitter. Check us out at Bloomberg Tech TV weekdays 5 p.m. in New York, 2 p.m. in San Francisco. This is Bloomberg. A stock we are watching is Snap. After closing just below its IPO price on Monday, it continued its decline, falling nearly 9% today. Snap was downgraded by Morgan Stanley amid concerns over competition from Instagram and the ability of Snapchat's parent to grow as fast as initially expected. Its market cap of about $18 billion stands in stark contrast to the high-end valuation target of $40 billion, one person familiar with the matter described back in October. We are back now with Dick Costolo, currently the CEO of Chorus Fitness and former CEO of Twitter. What's your outlook on Snap?
Well, let's see. I've said for many years, I think it's fair to say, and publicly, that I think Evan is maybe the best consumer product thinker out there in the digital space. He's innovated over and over and over again. First with his sort of second big product insight on Snap was Stories, and then Spectacles and the geo filters now that my son and all his friends use all the time. So I just think he's a remarkable consumer product thinker. The challenge for these kinds of companies the challenges include in the consumer advertising space, consumer digital advertising space. Facebook has just got, lots of the cards. They have volume, they have targeting, they have, they can just, their ability to deliver quality efficiently, hyper efficiently for advertisers is so great that it just makes competing in that space difficult if you don't have that kind of scale and the other advertising tools that they have at their disposal. So that's going to be the challenge for them. I think that Evan will continue to show interesting and maybe fascinating consumer insights that will probably continue to be copied by others. But they're going to have to try to figure out how to outflank somebody, these bigger players like Facebook, on the ad side. That
said, growth is slowing down. International growth is negligible. Facebook is copying features across all its platforms, Messenger, WhatsApp, Instagram, and basically or potentially blocking future growth in international markets. I mean, you had to contend with Facebook and Twitter. Can Snap overcome that?
It's a challenge. There's no question about it. The advantage that Evan has is he's a remarkable consumer product thinker. Mm-hmm. I mean, the fact that he launched Spectacles when he did in the wake of people sort of waving Google Glass aside.
But Spectacles, maybe they took off momentarily, and then
just saying, as a consumer product and in the digital space, a consumer product innovator, he's launched a number of successful products. He's had a number of insights that have been wildly different than anything else out there. And if he's got the ability to continue to do that quickly and monetize on the heels of those innovations, that's great, and that's probably their best bet. You mentioned the big important challenge, and it's an extraordinary challenge, is if Facebook can just fast follow on all these things and then continue to present these opportunities as we've got the same thing they do, but with a bigger audience to advertisers, that's a very, very tough thing to compete against.
Silicon Valley has been rocked the last few weeks by revelations about sexual harassment. Uber CEO Travis Kalanick has resigned after a sexual harassment investigation. Several women have come forward about sexual harassment by VCs. Investors have been fired, funds have been closed, lawsuits have been filed. What is your take on the bro culture problem in Silicon Valley?
I think it's I don't mean to trivialize it. It's a problem, and I think it's probably actually maybe understated and underreported. It's probably way worse than we've seen so far. And I think that, again, just to be blunt about it, I think in a lot of cases, the investors in some of these venture firms are simply ignoring it and maybe paying lip service to it, but ignoring it and then funding some of these enterprises anyway. It's widely understood that some of these issues were things that had been said in the background, and yet new funds were raised and on and on and on. So I think that until the capital being committed, by these LPs to these venture funds starts to really take it seriously and invest in more directly in women who are running these funds and in maybe gender-specific funds or people of color funds, you're going to continue to see lip service paid to this because when push comes to shove, the money's flowing into these funds anyway, even when they've heard about some of these things.
We've seen a lot of long-winded apologies. Do you buy it?
I mean, it's hard for me to comment on that stuff because, I'm not in frank in either of the shoes, both either the victims or the predators. So I don't know. It's weird when, it's a pattern, it's a pattern, it's a pattern, it's a pattern, and now that something comes out, it's, oh gosh. So that is a bit, you look askew at that a little bit.
Reid Hoffman is encouraging VCs to sign a decency pledge, talking about a third-party HR function that would oversee the relationship between VCs and entrepreneurs. Is that a realistic solution?
I'll tell you, I just don't think that that's sufficient. It's like saying I mean, listen, I love Reid. I understand what he's trying to do. But the answers seem more dramatic to me. Why aren't people funding, women-only GP, funds where the GPs are all women? There are certainly plenty of funds where the GPs are all men, and I just don't see those things getting funded. And instead of saying to the people who are already in these guys-only partnerships, do you promise to do X, Y, Z? I'd like to see a lot more money flowing to, you know what? There are a lot of smart women in the Valley. A lot of them are in the venture business. Let's go enable a few of them to create their own fund and get after it. There are new funds launching all the time. These people are able to get people are able to get funds raised with what I would even go as far as to say aren't records you would look at and say, yeah, I'm going to fund that new venture fund. So there are plenty of super qualified women out there, and I would like to see more of the LPs and institutional investors putting their money where their mouth is in the venture side.
Quickly, I know that you are very focused on hiring women at Chorus and at a smaller stage making sure that it's 50-50. What is your vision for this company?
It's a social fitness platform. Our vision for the company is that in the real world, the way people get healthy and live healthy lives is through social motivation and social accountability. And yet online, most fitness platforms are one-on-one. Here's a program for you. And then you go and do it and try to keep yourself motivated in isolation. Chorus is all about getting a team of people together to help each other stay motivated, to do what they want to do and do what they've committed to do and help each other be successful.
When's it coming out? It's in beta right now.
It's in beta right now and we're working on the user dynamics of it. I have like 3 or 4 more things we really want to do, so I'd say late this fall.
All right. Dick Costolo, Chorus Fitness CEO, former CEO of Twitter. Always great to have you here on the show. Thanks so much. Coming up, we are on the ground at the Taobao Maker Festival, Hangzhou, China. We will show you which gadgets the youngest consumers in the country are gravitating towards. This is Bloomberg. Alibaba is taking a page from the Amazon Go cashless convenience store by showcasing a similar Tao Cafe concept in its Chinese hometown of Hangzhou. Our Bloomberg chief North Asia correspondent Stephen Engel got a first-hand look at the youth-focused Taobao Maker Festival that features other so-called new retail strategies that integrate online with offline shopping.
The Taobao Maker Festival is where the virtual world meets the physical. Some 108 Taobao vendors here selling their wares, and the target really are the millennials in China on their smartphones, buying all kinds of stuff. Ni hao.
Ni hao.
The festival, in its second year, is double the size of last year's and is an offline showcase for China's young entrepreneurs who've built successful online shops without the crippling brick-and-mortar overhead. Whether it's the latest in eye-popping design or body-socking virtual reality combat, the Taobao Festival represents the new youth-driven consumer economy in China. In fact, a quarter of the vendors here in Hangzhou are so-called 90后, those born after 1990. And in this melee, the generation gap was all too evident.
I have no idea what I just did. Once you open it up.
30-year-old Zuni Lin, though, knew exactly what he was doing when he started making these portable and professional folding electric guitars.
In Taobao, this is the only way we could get so many exposures in a short time. We only existed for like 2 years.
How many have you sold?
About 1,000.
Now, are all your customers in China, or you're selling overseas as well?
We are selling to the US too. We have distributors there already, but we just started.
Alibaba too is just starting its Tao Cafe new retail concept, targeting, of course, young consumers who are more adept at using mobile wallets. It's grab-and-go, cashless and cashierless convenience.
Much like the Amazon Go concept, this Tao Cafe has its flaws. For example, you can't have too many shoppers in the shop at the same time. Right now in this beta trial, it can kind of overwhelm the system. But for Alibaba, it pays off. It gets shoppers, the online shoppers, to use their Alipay in the offline world. And right now, that is data that is very valuable.
Bloomberg's Stephen Engel there reporting from Hangzhou, China. Coming up, one of the world's biggest cybersecurity companies has ties to Russian intelligence services that go deeper than previously known. We will bring you a Bloomberg Business Week report. This is Bloomberg.
I'm Elisa Parenti in Washington, and you're watching Bloomberg Technology. Let's start with a check of your first word news. The EPA has been saved from proposed massive budget cuts by an unlikely source, House Republicans. The White House wanted to cut 31% of the budget. House members responded with a 6.5% reduction. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is vowing to retaliate against the U.S. if it fails to return seized diplomatic property in the country. He was referring to the Obama administration's decision to seize Russian embassy country homes in retaliation for election hacking. And Moscow plans to send a Russian diplomat who was blacklisted by the EU to be its next U.S. ambassador. Anatoly Antonov will replace Sergei Kislyak, the envoy at the center of allegations over contacts between the Kremlin. Northern Ireland's Democratic Unionist Party will push for the UK to exit Europe's single market. That is according to a DUP senior lawmaker who spoke with Bloomberg. The party is key to propping up Theresa May's Brexit agenda after she failed to lock down a majority in Parliament. The IOC may pick both Los Angeles and Paris as Olympic host cities in September, when the 2024 and 2028 Summer Games rights are expected to be awarded simultaneously. The AP reports if a deal falls through, only 2024 will be voted on, and Paris is considered the favorite. Global news 24 hours a day, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Elisa Parenti. This is Bloomberg. It's just after 5:30 p.m. Tuesday here in Washington, 7:30 now Wednesday morning in Sydney. We are joined by Bloomberg's Paul Allen with a look at the markets. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Elisa. Looks like we're set up for a rather tepid start to Wednesday here in Sydney. We got our ASX futures lower by 2 points as we wait on consumer confidence numbers for the month of July. We're not expecting great things there either. Consumer confidence has been steadily weakening in Australia over the past 3 months as consumers struggle with weak wages growth and high household debt. Over in Japan, Nikkei futures looking kind of mixed right now. PPI for June is out a little later. That's expected to remain flat, although pulling back a little year on year. And trade officials from every country from the TPP except the United States are going to be meeting in Hakane today. This is the start of a two-day meeting to progress that trade deal without the US. Elsewhere, we're also waiting on the South Korean jobless rate for the month of June. That's expected to show a slight contraction to 3.6% from 3.7%. I'm Paul Allen in Sydney. More from Bloomberg Technology next.
Welcome back to Bloomberg Technology. I'm Emily Chang. We head now to Capitol Hill, where we are joined by Bloomberg's chief Washington correspondent, Kevin Cirilli, who is standing by with one of the top Democrats on the Senate Intelligence Committee in the midst of the latest email scandal in Washington. Kevin, take it away.
Thank you, Emily. We're here with Senator Mark Warner. Senator, what do you make of all of the developments from Donald Trump Jr.'s emails?
Well, this is the first time the public has seen clear evidence that there was an attempt to offer information to the Trump campaign by clearly an organized effort by the Russian government. And the fact that this is one more example of senior officials from the Trump campaign or Trump organization who continue to deny these contacts with Russians until evidence comes out, and then they have to recant.
Senator, what's next? And is this collusion? Does this represent collusion? What are the next steps in this process?
Well, other members can jump to conclusions. My job is to keep this investigation going in a bipartisan fashion. This is, I think, very significant development, but we're just starting on our committee, on the Senate Intelligence Committee, to start to talk to the folks who've been affiliated with the Trump campaign, some of the names, the individuals, for example, who were in the meeting with Donald Trump Jr. We're going to want to talk to all of them.
Are you going to want to talk to Donald Trump Jr.?
Absolutely.
And what are you going to ask him?
Well, those questions are going to be, why was he so excited and why didn't he understand that having this kind of outreach from a Russian national who was acting, it appeared, on behalf of the Russian government to provide this kind of information to tear down Clinton and bring up his father? I think anyone, even if they were a rookie, would realize that was inappropriate.
What do you say to Republicans who say, hey, wait a minute, John Podesta did this and other campaigns did this?
What I would say is, in my memory, I've never seen an example where an agent of a foreign government, and no particular foreign government, a foreign government that's an adversary who has been massively trying to interfere in our elections, and that's been the consensus of the whole intelligence community, has reached out in this way, and then to have a campaign respond to it. Any legitimate campaign official would know you don't take this kind of help from a foreign adversary.
This is my final question to you. You're the top Democrat on one of the committees investigating this whole entire matter. We saw market reaction today. The markets rebounded, but what is your message to markets?
Well, I think the markets have been a little overbought for a while. I've been surprised they've been as forward-leaning as they have, but I think there's going to be more bumps in the road.
Senator, so do you think that they are so do you think that they should be reacting as they should? Were they right to react today?
I think that there has been a little more smooth sailing from the market since the president has been inaugurated. I think there's clearly a lot more to investigate, a lot more questions to get answered.
Senator Mark Warner, top Democrat on intelligence. Thanks for coming on Bloomberg. We know you're very busy this afternoon. Back to you, Emily. Back to you, Emily.
All right, Kevin Cirilli there on Capitol Hill with Senator Mark Warner. Thanks so much, Kevin. Well, Microsoft is out to make high-speed internet more accessible throughout the United States. The tech giant announced a new campaign dubbed the Rural Airband Initiative, which will aim to eliminate the gap in high-speed internet access in the country's hardest-to-reach areas. The effort would eliminate the broadband gap over the next 5 years, starting by funding projects in 12 U.S. states in the upcoming year. By 2022, Microsoft plans to provide fast internet to 2 million people. Coming up, we speak with the head of the UK-based luxury fashion platform Farfetch on their biggest global competitor. More on that next. This is Bloomberg. In today's revolving door, Michael Ronan, a top executive at Goldman Sachs, is leaving the firm to join Masayoshi Son's planned $100 billion SoftBank Vision Fund. This according to people familiar with the matter. Ronan has worked on many large tech deals in recent years, including SoftBank's push for majority control of Sprint in 2013. He's also been involved with putting together the Vision Fund earlier in the year. Now, as we've been reporting, Amazon Prime Day is upon us. The annual shopping event allows Amazon's 85 million Prime members to shop till they drop. The one area that the tech giant has yet to conquer is luxury. That is where London-based Farfetch would like to come in. The global luxury fashion online platform partners with hundreds of designers across the globe, allowing them to connect with over 1 million customers in 190 countries. Earlier, Bloomberg's Caroline Hyde sat down with Farfetch founder and CEO Jose Neves in London. She started by asking about the company's use of AI and how much of a role tech will play in the future of e-commerce.
Absolutely. We use a lot of data. As a marketplace and as a platform, we have more data than really anyone in the industry. So we are able to leverage that data both in terms of the way we do marketing, so being more targeted and more efficient in terms of online marketing, but also in terms of how we personalize the experience for the user. And that will be a key unique competitive advantage if we're able to really seize that opportunity in the future.
Marketing, where do you look? Is it social media based? Is it the customers that already come to you? What do you find works the best?
Like everything these days, it's everything. It's a mix of everything. We do mostly digital marketing in terms of money spent. And that's across all platforms, both the Western world platforms, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the Googles of this world, and obviously the regional platforms, the WeChat, the whole Tencent universe, Yandex in Russia, etc. So we really have a global digital marketing capability, and that was developed obviously over the years. But things like PR and comms, they are becoming more and more important actually. So there's this irony that PR and comms as probably the marketing's oldest art and science is coming back as a vital part in the digital company's positioning and strategy. So it's really across all channels.
When you are looking at the competitive landscape, how do you assess it? Who are your rivals as you see them? Who are becoming them?
So we are a platform company, so we're not a retailer. We don't hold any inventory, so we really do not compete with any retailer, be it a department store or even an internet, pure digital retailer. They could be partners of Farfetch and sellers on the platform. Some of them already are. So our competitors are really the platform companies that are addressing consumers. Some of them already massive in fashion and luxury fashion. If you take Instagram, for example, if Instagram will have a buy button with the logistics and customer service back end, there would be a hell of a competitor. So we look at ourselves as a platform technology driven business with the community ethos behind it, and so that's where we see the competition coming from.
When you look at Amazon getting into every sort of industry group, and many are wondering where it goes next, do you ever see them being a real force to reckon with in luxury?
You never know with Amazon, right? So definitely it is a large category globally. Amazon are very successful in fashion. They're now one of the top fashion retailers or sellers in the US already, even compared with brick and mortar companies. So they've been very successful in fashion. Luxury, however, has an emotional and aesthetic component, which I don't think Amazon has cracked yet, and this is the reason. And in my view, it has to be part of the DNA and the culture of the company. Otherwise, very difficult to steer what is a transatlantic cargo ship. but it's definitely always a company that executes immaculately, and therefore we need to keep an eye.
What about, therefore, Brexit? Did it affect you at all? Has it affected the business? Has it affected the source of talent here in the United Kingdom for you to be able to...
Well, not yet in terms of the pool of talent. In terms of the macro variables of the business, it really doesn't have a major impact on Farfetch because we're completely global in terms of trading. Supply from 40 countries going to 180, so whatever happens in one part of the world is compensated by another. So that is relatively controlled, at least for us. For other businesses, it will be a bit more complicated. The talent and people part is obviously where we're a bit more worried. But it all depends on the government policies, and we hope that the UK government will keep the doors open to talent.
Farfetch founder and CEO Jose Neves there. Well, Kaspersky Lab is one of the biggest cybersecurity companies in the world, and a Bloomberg Businessweek report shows that the company's ties to Russian intelligence services go deeper than has previously been disclosed. Joining me now from Washington, our Bloomberg cybersecurity reporter, Mike Riley, who helped write this story. So, Mike, first of all, tell us what the significance is of Kaspersky and these potential ties to the Russian government.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind that Kaspersky is, you're right, as a major cybersecurity company, its software is sold in Best Buy and Walmart. It's on a lot of people's computers, including key companies and parts of critical organizations in the U.S. It's not unusual for cybersecurity companies to have pretty close ties with home governments, but given the context of Russian hacking in the election and far beyond that, it's become a much more contentious issue with Kaspersky. In this case, Kaspersky has tried to draw a really bright line and say we have no special relationship with Russian intelligence services because that's going to turn off consumers in the U.S. and Europe. And it turns out their relationship with them is a lot closer than they let on.
We do have a statement from Kaspersky Lab. They say when statements are taken out of context, anything can be manipulated to serve an agenda. Kaspersky Lab has always acknowledged that it provides appropriate products and services to governments around the world to protect those organizations from cyber threats, but it does not have any unethical ties or affiliations with any government, including Russia. You guys point out in your story that cybersecurity companies typically stay close to home governments, the U.S. government. How is the U.S. government responding to this?
Well, the U.S. government has been turning up the heat on Kaspersky quite a bit lately. The FBI agents have visited the employees of Kaspersky in the U.S. at their homes and asked them very pointed questions about their relationship and how much guidance they get from Moscow. But more than that, they've been sending up a lot of flares. They've sent out warnings that Kaspersky software could be used to hack industrial control systems and things like that operate the power grid and other central places. And most recently, today, there's a report out that Donald Trump is considering a government-wide ban of Kaspersky products. Now, that's not going to be a huge business hit because Kaspersky doesn't do a lot of business with the U.S. government. But if he convinces Walmart and Best Buy to pull this stuff from their shelves, it's a really, really big deal. Half or almost half of Kaspersky's revenue comes from the U.S. and Europe. So this is a key market from them. If they get this kind of whiff of connection to the FSB when people stop buying their stuff, it's going to be a huge hit.
All right. Well, great reporting by you, Mike Riley, and our own Jordan Robertson. Thanks so much, Mike, for giving us that update. Coming up, Amazon is calling its third annual Prime Day record-breaking. We will break down the manufactured holiday next. This is Bloomberg.
Amazon is rolling out its third annual Prime Day in a bigger way than ever before. The manufactured holiday was extended to 30 hours with more than 100,000 new deals for Prime members around the globe. The e-commerce giant is offering new deals every 5 minutes on products like the Amazon Echo and flat-screen TVs. Amazon services are also on offer. One flashy deal, 4 months of unlimited music, costing Prime members just 99 cents. But Amazon can't take all the credit for coming up with this extravagant shopping event. The company, run by Jeff Bezos, took a page straight out of Alibaba's handbook. For years, the Chinese e-commerce giant has capitalized on 11/11, aka Singles Day, in China, turning the anti-Valentine's Day into one of the biggest shopping holidays of the year. On Singles Day in 2016, Alibaba racked up almost $18 billion in sales in the 24-hour event. But comparing Singles Day to Prime Day isn't completely fair. Alibaba has been running this show since 2009. Amazon only started these promotions in 2015. Another key difference, Prime Day is only available to the approximately 85 million Prime customers, while Alibaba's event is open to all online shoppers around the world. While Prime Day is still in its early stages, it's already showing signs of being a big success. When Amazon held its first Prime Day in July 2015, it marked a turning point for the stock price. Over the past 2 years, Amazon shares have gained almost 120% in value. Amazon may have some catching up to do, but if it continues to follow in the footsteps of Alibaba, Amazon may be writing a Prime success story of its own.
Here now to dig deeper into Amazon's Prime Day, we are joined by our Bloomberg editor-at-large, Corey Johnson, who was at the Amazon World Headquarters just yesterday. So what do we know so far? What has Amazon said about how the day has gone?
They haven't given us any numbers, and they probably won't. They didn't last year. We do understand that Prime Day last year was their biggest sales day ever, even bigger than their biggest day in the fourth quarter. Amazon, I went back and I read the annual report of Amazon, and I haven't read it in a few years, so it was actually interesting reading for me this weekend. And one of the things they highlight in that, it's not a big surprise, but that 32% of sales, 33% in prior years, come from the fourth quarter. So that they can have one day that's not in the fourth quarter, I think is really important to them to just draw people to the platform.
We're expecting more details from Amazon tomorrow, but so far they have said the Echo has been the best-selling item. Shopping has been at record levels, whatever that means. Spencer Soper, our Amazon reporter in Seattle, just sent me this, saying that a research group named Market Track said the average discount was about 40%. Based on a sample of 120 products.
Well, 120 products. Look, I spent about the entire 3 hours of my radio show today with Carol Massar. We were shopping for each other and sort of making fun of the just junk that was available from this Amazon Prime sample. There's
Let's say unimpressive.
I'm calling it junk. There was Bluetooth speakers. I bought some of the junk. Don't get me wrong. I bought, if my kids aren't watching, they're not watching right now. I bought them Chia Pets. I got one of Barack Obama and one, which is the most expensive of the Chia Pets, and one of Donald Trump Chia Pet.
That is amazing.
But that was the kind of useless junk that was available in size. But on every page, you could see, just about every page, you could see that they were really emphasizing the Amazon Echo products, which were at a very steep discount. And I think the reason is that it also points to the reason they do this. They want subscribers in Amazon Prime. They want people on their Amazon platform. They want people using Echo. They want people using Prime. And that by doing this event now, it really does, pun intended, prime the pump for the fourth quarter, for the very important shopping days in December. If they can get people to be Prime members now, they can really get them tuned up for an entire year of spending, especially in the fourth quarter.
Interestingly, Walmart didn't do anything special today. Target didn't do anything special today. You know, what does this mean for the other retailers?
I think that there's an Amazon effect that's being talked about quite a lot right now, with retailers in so much pain, with brick and mortar retailers in so much pain. I think really the bigger effect is on shopping malls. And it's not so much the big retailers, it's all the small retailers and shopping malls that are really getting ground up right now by online shopping, by people that are walking and taking pictures of things on their Amazon phones or on their phones with their Amazon app and then just ordering them on Amazon. They're just really getting eaten up by that kind of competition. The customers are just want to pay a lot less money, and Amazon is there to help them.
It's all about building Prime, bringing people into the Amazon ecosystem. One of the most interesting deals was the 99 cents for 4 months of unlimited music, which is, in a way, hitting Apple right where it hurts. Apple's coming out with a HomePod later this year. Music is their main focus with that. You can't get iTunes on the Echo. What do you make of that?
I'm so glad you mentioned that. And so in the intro, it said that I was at Amazon headquarters, and you were thinking, wait, I thought he was in a tarmac in Seattle-Tacoma Airport. I was at both. And I will tell you that within the hallways of Amazon, they are talking about music quite a lot, and that both Prime Video and Prime Music, with those Echo devices, the biggest beneficiary for Amazon hasn't even been the shopping. I think it's been music. We're going to see numbers about that later in the year. Some of the market research firms are starting to look at that. But I think that Amazon Music is something to keep an eye on, and that I really think we're going to end up with sort of 3 big companies there in Spotify, Apple, and Amazon Prime Music.
85 million Prime members, that's the estimate. How does that number strike you?
It's a great big number, and I think that what we know from their spending from outside marketing, and Amazon doesn't tell us a lot, is that those people spend a lot more money than the rest of the Amazon users, and that shipping, that they might even lose money in shipping, but they're making a volume. And the thing that we don't really talk about on a day like this is that Amazon Web Services is giving the company the profits to sell this stuff at or below cost.
All right. Our Bloomberg editor-at-large, Corey Johnson. We'll see how the chips fall tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining us. And that does it for this edition of Bloomberg Technology. We will continue our focus on tech coverage. Wednesday, we'll hear from Reddit co-founder Alexis Ohanian. This is Bloomberg.